So
Thank you.
awesome. So what I want you to notice is that was the use of leverage almost exclusively as a technique, only leveraging situations, intensifying the pain of the problem, showing a series of philosophical solutions, proving the solution, taking away the risk, asking for certain actions, and having shown the consequences for if it didn't change, and intensifying the provocation until she actually reacted. So notice if her reaction didn't change, I escalated. I didn't backtrack and get sweeter. I escalated, right? Now there's a limit to this. There's a limit to this, but it's always further than you think. Your flexibility has to go far enough to make it work. So are there any people here who understand you're uncomfortable with getting leverage? That when I was working on her and I was getting her to an uncomfortable spot and intensifying the pain of the problem, you feel like uncomfortable. Can you relate to that? So you need to see it as a whole. You need to see the process as a whole so that you know that it's ending on a beautiful, good change, right? It's ending on a beautiful, good change. Is she more confident or less confident than when we started? More confident. But in the confusion of her noticing her bias, and all I did was show biases. I just showed a few biases. It's no big deal. We all have them. But I showed a few biases. Are you comfortable enough to get leverage? Are you comfortable enough to show the person their model of the world in such a way as they can decide if they want to keep it or they want to go to a new model? Can they see their old model of the world? Can you pull it out and amplify it enough for them to see it? And will you stay comfortable there long enough for them to actually get it? And that would have been much, much less amplified if she had not said, I'm going to take a bunch of time to change. So notice she made that decision and has a shift right now, and she really wanted to ponder it. So is it true that you've changed your mind more than you thought possible in a few minutes? So when she says, I'm going to have to think about this, as a practitioner for years, I go, no, because if she goes into a regular life before making the conclusion, her distractions and her regular life are going to eat away all of the focus on it, and she's going to end up back where she started. Whereas if she makes the decision now, she can keep that decision. If she makes an actual decision now, she can keep the decision. It can be hers. It can be hers, and it can stay. But wait and see, I think so, maybe, sort of, a little. You know the leverage hasn't worked yet when you hear, I think so, maybe, sort of, a little, kinda, I'll wait and see. You see, none of those responses are evidence of a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the leverage didn't work until you hear absolutes. So what if the client is in denial about their situation and denies the read? They won't deny the read most of the time. If, however, they do, say, okay, cool, I hear you, teach me how it is. You be my teacher and teach me how it is, please. Teach me. So you do it the same way that you'd elicit a strategy of a phobia. Teach me how to have the phobia. And they'll always say, well, it just happens. Say, well, what do you feel? You know, do you feel something first? Do you see something? Do you tighten up or loosen up? And you got to help them by asking more questions so they give you sensory-based answers to teach you how they're going through what they're going through. Yes? And what we were playing with her was her presuppositions. What does she presuppose to be true in that moment? So she presupposes that they're going to be critical of her, or she presupposes that it's possible to have a critical experience. And now she doesn't presuppose that. Is that true? So you're all going to need to understand this leverage thing and be comfortable with the fact that you have to love the joy of when they're doing great. You got to love the joy of when they're doing great. And you got to love the gratitude that comes your way when they're doing great. But in order to get them there, you need to be able to walk the journey of the associated emotions that will have them make the change and keep the change. They're not going to make and keep the change if you're just giving them a pep talk. They're not going to make the change if you're just a cheerleader. If you're a change worker, you are not just a cheerleader. So actually, raise your right hand. And as you raise your right hand, please repeat after me. I promise to not just be a cheerleader.
I promise to not just be a cheerleader.
That's right. I promise not just be a cheerleader. The one thing that you need to be comfortable with is neural associating away from pain and toward pleasure both. Their friends can encourage them. A random person at a store can encourage them. We are doing something much more sophisticated than just encouraging people. So a lot of you really wanted to just be cheerleaders when you first were thinking of it.